Go ahead and start recording. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to, let's see, where did I put it? Let me get the link to the document that I'm going to share in just a second here. I've actually got two documents, sorry, Kevin, that I uploaded to the meeting folder so that we would have them available today to look at. One of them is the draft implementation report. I'm going to put a link in the chat, but I'm going to share it, so don't worry about opening it. I just want to make sure you've got it and that it's on the record. Okay. No, that's not it. Sorry. Hang on. Turn it. Okay.
I've got a link for it if you want.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think I've got it. I think that's it right there. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and share the document from my computer. Here we go. Okay, so I've made progress. I haven't finished. I was hoping to finish, but that didn't happen. But I have made some progress. So everything that has a hyperlink has been written. Some of them need to be expanded a little bit. The ones that I think I'd like to focus on are the coding table, and I'd also like to review the IRB information. So this is what the Institutional Review Board considerations. This was sent to us by Jimmy this morning. And so I wanted to check in with you and see if you feel like that's adequate or if there's anything else we should add to that, as both of you are much better positioned, both of you, Adea and Kelly, are much better positioned to let me know.
Okay, so this is just telling them if they don't have a IRB, internal IRB board on campus, that they can go to the University of Oregon's. And I guess the University of Oregon has agreed to facilitate this. And okay, actually that's great because I mean, yeah, when you do data collection, you usually have to say how you're going to secure the data, what you're going to do, and how you're going to contact the students. Everything that we're saying they need to do, they have to show that they're going to do that through the IRB process. So that kind of assures that. Go ahead, Kelly. You were about to say that.
Oh no. The only thing, I mean, props to Oregon. I appreciate them doing this because and I don't think it'll be a ton of extra work for them, but I just appreciate that they're willing to serve in this. But in that first paragraph, third line, results may secure IRB. I would want to change that may to either should or must. Like, I just don't want to, I don't want anybody interpreting that as optional, right? Like,
Okay.
And I don't, must is a really strong word. Like, that would be my choice, but it might be over claiming. Like, what, there isn't anybody who's actually going to sort of enforce this, right? So, but I just like a stronger word there.
Okay. Well, the thing is that anything that has a must or a shall can be written into the rules. And so we would write a rule that says must or shall. Is plans to publish, and maybe just with the exception of the required summary report, would that make sense to put that in kind of?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Sure. I'm wondering if, so it says with plans to publish, and then maybe just something like with the exception. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that publish means in a peer-reviewed journal, but just kind of, I'm not sure everybody would know that.
Maybe to broaden that, you could replace publish with publicly disseminate.
Well, but the required summary report is also publicly disseminated.
Yeah.
Well, even if they don't plan to publish it, they should go through the IRB process.
Yeah.
Because they're collecting the data on it, and you need to say how you're going to collect the data, how you're going to contact the student, how you're going to secure the data. All that is in the IRB process. So all those rules should be laid out in the IRB process. So it's very important that they think about how they're going to do that, and they show that they're really fulfilling what we've said in the document. So I don't even know if that line is needed, but I may be wrong. Maybe maybe I'm overthinking this. So Kelly, am I overthinking this? I could be wrong.
I don't think so. I think we'd be fine if we didn't put it in, but I also think that it's always a good idea. I agree with you, Adea, that we should just say, it is recommended that all colleges get an IRB endorsement for distribution of the survey. But I mean, just as I'm thinking the same way you are, Adea, just as a matter of our own professional sense of ethics and values, right? Like, you should do this even if you're not planning to publicly disseminate. But if people think that's confusing, or if we don't want to sort of make a recommendation, it is also the case that it is just fine to not have IRB approval, as long as everybody understands clearly that you should not then disseminate, except in the manner, Rowan, that you're referencing there parenthetically. So I don't know. I could go either way, but it makes sense to me both ways. I did notice one other word here. I think in that same third sentence, IRB oversight should probably be IRB approval. I don't think IRB committees would agree that they actually have oversight. They just have review, right? That oversight suggests that maybe there's an ongoing relationship with them. That probably isn't the case.
Mm-hmm. And then
I don't know,
Well,
Adea, where does that leave you?
I don't want to burden the schools, because if they're thinking, okay, we're just going to do this and publish the results, but I just want to make sure, I mean, if we're not going to publish the results, we're just going to send it into HEC, then maybe they don't need IRB. If they're just going to send it into HEC, then maybe we shouldn't have that extra thing. So, because I was just thinking the data collection in general, because we just do that for whether we publish it or not, we always go through the IRB process. But I don't want to put that extra burden on smaller schools.
I guess the more I think about it, while I think the way it reads right now is probably adequate.
Okay.
But because I think it's communicating what you're saying, Adea, I think it's communicating that sufficiently. But I'm with you, though. I always tell people, like, just do it, right?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of schools that are so burdened by this, right? Like the Title IX coordinator, who's doing all of the Title IX stuff, and all of the training is also trying to do all of this. I think, and I think it's pretty clear that if they're treating it as human subjects research, you have to get IRB approval. We want you to do that. But if you're doing it just to comply with the law, then you don't really need it.
The reversal, that edit that you just made there, Rowan, I really like. I didn't even realize that until I saw it that way. But I think that is exactly. And that further makes me think to Adea's point that I think it's probably okay as is, because it's making clear. Yeah, I like that. I think that covers it.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't want any of the people I've been talking to in the last week who are like, why are you asking me for all this information? I don't know what you need, because I've been asking for reporting information. If I tell them that, if I start talking to them about IRB approval, they're gonna Yeah.
They're gonna
it's gonna be
have
a
their
lot of
eyes rolled
stress.
in the back of their head.
Yeah.
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 I did want to ask you one thing. You are still recommending this be put together as a team, because I remember we had talked about that not, you don't want it just to be just the Title IX coordinator, but maybe that person get together, team of deans, and I forgot all the people, obviously IR and people who work directly with the students. I don't know where that recommendation is. It may be in this document, but
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah, we're recommending that they put together a team to help
yeah,
with all of this stuff, to help with the implementation. But when it comes to the reporting stuff, that's probably going to fall back on the IRB or on the Title IX coordinators at these
okay,
places. So
okay,
yeah, so the team is mostly for thinking about, how do we get this out on campus? What kind of messaging do we want to use for our students? That sort of
okay,
thing. And there may be
okay.
campuses that are so small that they can't even really put a team together at this point.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean,
when you
we
say
have,
what is a small campus here? Because I'm like, my school is a regional school and it has about 3,000 students. Is that a small
right.
campus, or are you talking about
I'm
something smaller than
less
that?
than less than 100. There are many
What?
schools that have, yeah, like Bergen College of Canine Studies is always my example. Mount Angel Seminary has about 40 students. Portland Fashion Institute, I think, has about 400, maybe 500. There's a lot of smaller schools out there.
Ah, okay. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't think that broadly. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. The state colleges and universities, I think are fairly are much better resourced than a lot of the small private ones. So, okay, all right. So we're happy with that. And then the other thing I wanted to show you was, so I've done there, please, if you have time to review this whole thing, that would be awesome. If you don't, I totally get that. But I wanted to
When
show
do you
you what
have to
I've,
have it back? When do you need it
well,
back by?
I really would need it by next Monday. I'm
Okay,
going to
they'll
be
give me over
working.
a weekend. Okay.
Okay, yeah, and I'd
Okay,
like
that's
for
fine.
us, we have a meeting on the calendar for next Monday, and I think we're going to need it because the
Okay.
following Monday, 2 weeks from today, we're going to ask the full council to approve this. So yeah, so we're almost there. We're really getting close. So
Thank you for your hard work and
Yeah,
this,
sure.
yes.
seriously, Rowan, this is just another level of wow.
This is amazing. They need to
Yeah,
hire you full time.
yeah.
Oh, well, they've got me on now. I will be continuing at 0.68 times, so about 2/3 time.
Good.
So
Okay.
I'm really happy that just happened last week. I don't even know if I've told Kevin or not. We knew I was going to continue, but yeah, I'll be here about 2/3 time. So I'm really
Cool
excited about
beans.
that. Yeah.
Well, you're good at this. This is
Well, thank
great. I
you.
have learned a
Thanks.
lot from you. It's like, oh my God, this is tutorial. Thank you.
I am so glad to have all of you here. This has made such a difference. But this is where I need your help again, right? Your expertise,
Okay.
because I have absolutely no idea how to put together this coding table, right? And so
Okay.
what I wanted to do was I wanted to put together two coding tables. One that says these are the questions mapped to the statutory requirements, and that's what these tables are. The second one is going to go through number by number because we did ask a few questions that are not required. So how we want them to code them, and then we'll make the report based on the coding. Okay. So I want them to use question 8, for example, to I want when they review question 8, and I'm not going to show you the survey, you'll just have to trust me on that. I want them to code that as sex. So when we're asking in the report format where we've got sex, ethnicity, race, ethnicity, and national origin, I want them to know which questions they can pull that information from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and if there's a model that you think would be better suited for this than that, I would love to see it. Then when
I
we get
mean,
down to the experiences of, blah blah blah, then we've got so the statutory language is the number and type of experiences, and then in the second column you'll find that information for when you, in these two questions, code that as sexual, those are sexual harassment questions.
Mhm.
Those are gender-based harassment questions. So remember, we didn't ask, have you been sexually harassed? We said, have you had any of these experiences? And then we gave them a
Yeah.
list of experiences. So if any of those experiences are endorsed, then that would be, you would code that as sexual harassment. And then the second question, 18, for example, asks, how many times did this happen?
Can I give you my first opinion?
Yes,
The first thing that's coming to mind.
yes.
If a person really doesn't understand, I forgot the scale on that. I guess you're counting, I forgot the scale. I would have to look back. I would want an example if I'm looking, because I'm like, okay, are you, I don't know whether those were yes, no questions or they were a scale question.
Mhm.
A 5-point scale. So
Mhm.
how are you coding that as far as endorsement of that?
Mhm.
Or I have to go back and look at the question to see
Mhm.
how that's going to be coded. Like, I remember a lot of these had like a 5-point scale or something. Oh, I'm missing something. Maybe I missed it. You probably already put it up there somewhere.
No, I
Where, oh,
didn't. Okay. Yeah.
so that's the only thing I'm thinking, because, okay, you tell me to go look at question 17. Okay, what am I supposed to be looking at question 17? And how am I just like adding things up, or what am I doing at question 17 or 18? If
Okay.
I mean, so what am I doing when I look at that question? That's why I was saying, uh, give someone like an example, or either tell them actually how to combine, or do you want them to combine those? That's the
Got it.
only thing. That's the only
Got
thing
it.
I just immediately
Okay.
came up in my mind. I may be wrong.
So no,
Kelly,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Kelly there? I don't know. My thing
Yeah,
is
Kelly's here.
okay. I got
Yeah,
the
I'm
recording
good with that.
transcription thing over his picture. Okay, go ahead. That's the only thing is, like, if I'm someone that don't know, I'm like, okay, you're telling me this question means that and that. Well, what am I supposed to do? Just give you everybody's answer? Or do you want
Mhm.
a summary? Or do you want raw numbers? Or do you want everybody that had this type answered this type of, how many people said often, or whatever the scale was? So for each of them, what do you want me to do when I go there?
Okay. So let's see, where
Maybe
is,
wrong.
okay, trying
So
to find the window I just shared. Okay, so this is what the survey looks like. Let me move.
again,
Okay. Yeah, okay.
so let's
So,
go to question 18.
okay, so this
So,
is question 17 and 18 here. So, question 17 is about sexual harassment since you
uh-huh.
enrolled here. So it sounds like what you're saying is 17, if these three are endorsed, code as sexual harassment.
Well, you have to decide what, okay, if they're going to have a dichotomous code, whether they were sexual harassed or were not sexually harassed, right?
Uh-huh.
Right? So we need to decide which ones is evidence of sexual harassment,
Right.
right? Because that's what we're trying to code it as, right? So
Yeah.
if they endorse those, I mean, Kelly, please chime in. This is how I would think at the, when I'm as a researcher, okay, then they're sexual harassed if they've experienced those things. If they've
Yeah.
experienced any of those things that I said would define sexual harassment. And we said pretty much we wanted to basically have them to tell us the experience, and then as a researcher we go in and say, because you've experienced that, you've actually defined it whether you believe it or not yourself. So we're doing was separating the experience from the interpretation of the experience. So it's us, for that's what we're doing on the background.
I mean, that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Are we reviewing? I mean, are we getting into the, apologies if maybe I should know this, but are we getting into that fine grain, the detail in terms of how we want, or how we're recommending people kind of summarize this. I mean, I think that's a very good idea, right? Like if people leave this broken out, it starts to lose some of its, oddly, it starts to lose some of its meaning, in part because people, I think,
Or
whether acknowledging it or not, might think that comments aren't as bad as asking me to do something sexual with them, right? When in fact, these are all just manifestations of sexual misconduct, of sexual harassment. Sorry, totally drew a blank on that. So I agree with what the argument you're making here. That that's
well, it
probably
depends
the
on what
right
we
way
want
to
to.
use this.
It depends on what we want to do. Or do we just want? Because we could get the number of people that endorsed either of those. It would just be messy on the back end where we have 20 people that said made a comment, 30 people that said, oh Lord,
Ask me to do something sexual with them.
yeah. And then we have
Yeah.
counts, and then we have prefer not to answer and all this other stuff.
Right.
So we can get a count of each of the categories and not let them do it. And then when they bring it in, whoever's on the back end at HEC can do it, just in case you think they're doing it wrong, or you could just say, add these up. So it's up to you how you want to do that.
Yeah.
But
so I'm never going to see the raw data. They're going to summarize this. So we want to make it as clear for them as possible. And Kelly, that's, that fine grained detail again is for the Mount Angel Seminary and Bergen Canine College. I think if I like what you're saying, I think you're saying, for question 17, if any of these responses are checked, code as sexual harassment, yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then we've got all of these others. And then, for example, on 21 here, where we ask, were you in a relationship or not? We can say if any of those are endorsed, then code as, relationship abuse as well.
Yeah. And also to stop from, because each of the endorsements are kind of different per question, but it seems like the ones that's common. So if
these are all common.
Like a one, well, what's common is like unsure, don't know, none, not acceptable, not applicable, something, and prefer not to answer. So if anything other than those are endorsed, count that as, that's what I was thinking. To let the writing, because otherwise you would have to go question by question. And then, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because those are almost the same in each one. So if either of those are done, then those are not counted as blah, 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 or however you want to write it up. But that, because otherwise you would go question by question. You can always give an example. I would say give an example to make sure it's concrete. It's like, let's say we have 200 students and they answer this, then these are the ones that count. So there's 10 in this, 10, so.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. That's really helpful. Okay.
Yeah, they'll save you a lot of time.
Okay.
And plus it should be logical, but I don't want to assume.
Yeah. So, okay, so that was incredibly helpful. I really like that. I think I'm going to keep the coding table mapped to the statutory requirements just because I really want to prove that we met the statutory requirements. But I will do the other table in the way that you're suggesting, so that it will be something that they can just use basically like a code book where they can go through and okay, if it says this, then I code it as that. That's where I enter the line. So I think that's the other thing, right? Is we want in the summary report, every question should appear in the summary report. Does that make sense? Because otherwise, why did we ask it? I guess. So,
I mean, to that point, like, why did we ask it? I'm not disagreeing with you here, Ron, but I think that it's important to just remind ourselves every now and then so that we have this available to people, which is, why ask all three if you're going to consolidate it? Well, it's because part of it is we just want to make sure that you're thinking about the range of possibilities of what we consider, even though we know that the real utility is going to be consolidating them, we want to help people think broadly about the different possibilities or the different experiences that might qualify, right? So anyway, maybe that doesn't need to be said, but
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think that's a really good point. I think that explaining why we're condensing them into something will be helpful. We've got the definitions that were approved by that were approved last November, way back then. So we can point to those and say that, the questions were written with options for endorsement that mirrored the definitions that we used for the type of sexual harassment. So by condensing them, we're not by condensing them, we are making the reporting easier, but any of I don't know, I'll have to figure out how to word that. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
You could just tell them plainly that we decided not to define things on the front end to allow people to tell their experiences, and we're defining it on the back end. So because we're defining it on the back end, we need the condensed version of it, or something like that, however you want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's quite honestly, because it gets too confusing if you start asking people for definitions and they're not researchers and they don't understand, or they're not even aware or of what they've experienced. Or so we just want the experience. If you need that as an explanation. Yeah.
I think it's really helpful. I think it's really illuminating.
Is it possible, because I'm always aware as kind of people who are not or have different skill sets, is it possible that someone who would be in the position to look at this, that's maybe on our committee, could do a once over looking at it in their role and see, would I have any questions over this? Not to say do another focus group or pilot test or whatever, just have someone that's like, okay, hey, this is our finished product. If I sent this to you and you read through it, do you feel like you can do this or answer this?
I think Jennifer might be a really good person for that.
Okay.
Jennifer with OIT.
Okay.
Because I think she's going to end up doing exactly this, and I don't think she's actually a researcher. I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I just want some kind of feedback. I always try to get feedback because
Yeah.
I've learned the hard way through failure that the best intentions are not, you give it to someone and you're like, you're not reading it like I wrote it. Are you? That's why aren't you in my brain? Why aren't you reading it like I thought I said it? And it's like, you can't blame them. So you're like, okay, thank you for your feedback. It's very helpful.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and just so you know, when we have these, I am going to send them out to the institutions to let them see them. I'm not going to give them I'm not going to say we're going to make any changes based on the feedback they give us. But if they give us substantive feedback, I feel like we're not going to change the survey based on their feedback, but there are things that we could definitely change in the implementation guide. And I'm going to ask the council for that permission to do that. And then also, I'm sure we're going to I already caught some typos in the survey. How many times have we been through that thing? So, yeah. So
believe me, when I ran my campus climate survey, there was one error on it in all those hundreds of questions, and there was one error, and I didn't catch it. All the people, nobody caught it, but this one person who rang my boss like, "Hey, this was spelled wrong." I was like, how many times did we do focus groups? How many times did we test? I was like, that one word. So nobody caught it. nobody caught it. And I thought I had went through that thing several times, but sometimes you just, you read things how you thought you wrote it.
Yeah.
You thought you, and you
Yeah.
just totally, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always good to have a fresh eye sometimes.
Always, definitely always. Um, so I think other than that, the only other thing that I'm going to write up that really needs some work is going to be talking about how to use or just some suggestions for using the results to improve their prevention and response. And I feel like I'm pretty good on that. I feel like I can handle that one okay. So that's one of the things we want to do is make some recommendations or some suggestions for, have some qualitative focus groups to ask why these particular groups are having such high incidences, or look at maybe your messaging because they're saying that they didn't know what the policies were. So, ask them if, maybe that's something you need to do. So that's the kind of thing we'll do there. But I think that's pretty much the questions that I had for you. And I feel like we can, yeah. So, but if you, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I had one thing.
Mhm.
Do we have any kind of, is there any kind of accountability measure built in the statute, or I don't know who would, just in case, let's say the first time and we found high incidence of something
Mhm.
and we give them suggestions and everything. Is there any kind of accountability to see that they have done something? Or because I wouldn't want to survey someone again and they're like, you didn't address my needs the first time, why should I participate in this survey again 2 years later? Do
Yeah.
we have any kind of follow-up between now and the second time we issue it for schools that became outliers compared to other schools?
So there's absolutely no statutory authority for us to review or comment on their results.
Okay.
Okay. They just submit their results. And the idea, I think, is that by getting them out into the daylight
Okay.
and letting others, we tell them not to compare themselves with other schools, but they're going to compare themselves with other schools, right?
Yeah.
So there could definitely be some more discussions. If you have a really high reporting rate, if you are getting a lot of reports from your Title IX coordinator is getting a lot of reports and your rate is high, okay, that's all right. If your rate is high and your Title IX coordinator isn't getting a lot of reports, that's a problem, right? But that's something for them to address internally
Okay.
or because of public, outside pressure.
Oh, yeah. So that's how you're doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
I
I think
appreciate that.
there's absolutely, there's no penalties for not doing this. There's no penalties for doing it badly. We can just, say they're out of compliance. We don't have a lot of, Kevin, what is it they always tell us to say? Um, we don't have any sticks. We just have a carrot or something like that. Yeah, we try to get voluntary compliance, not, I can't remember what the word is, but yeah.
Okay, I understand. Thank
Yeah.
you. You're about to say something. I interrupted you, Roy.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just saying, I think we're pretty much done
Oh,
for
okay.
today, unless you all have something else
Okay.
that you wanna go over.
Rowan, I just want to confirm then, do you still want to go forward with the next meeting on next Monday then?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please. So if you all can join us for that, that would be great.
Okay, cool beans. Well, have a nice day.
I'm good. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you all
Bye-bye.
so much.